What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to TechCubed. And today we are going to be installing Ubuntu into a VirtualBox virtual machine. Now, this is going to be a pretty easy and straightforward guide, mainly for those people who don't really know much about Linux or anything like that yet, and just want a simple tutorial to get started. I'll go over mainly everything that we're going to need to do, like setting up our virtual machine, and changing a couple settings around and getting it to run in a 16:9 aspect ratio and stuff like that. This is pretty simple, straightforward tutorial, like I said, for those who don't know much about Linux, and we're using Ubuntu, which is very basic version of Linux that a lot of people use as like their first version. So yeah, this is going to be kind of like your starting entry into the world of Linux sort of thing. So you are going to need, of course, as per usual, a couple things. The first of which being an Ubuntu ISO, which I have right here. Ubuntu 20.04.1 desktop AMD 64 ISO. Now, don't let the name deceive you. It says AMD. It, of course, works with AMD and Intel, so it doesn't really matter if you have like an AMD CPU or something from Ryzen. It works just fine, perfectly the same on both systems. Now, the next thing you are going to want, as you can imagine, will be VirtualBox. This is what we are going to be installing Ubuntu into. Now, just a quick little explanation here. We are not installing it into like our main drive and our partitions where our operating system is. This is going to be completely separate, of course, from our regular operating system. This is going to be like sort of a normal application. It's going to seem like a normal application on the drive. However, it's its own little operating system. It's going to use like RAM from your machine and stuff like that, like what you set it to. So just quick explanation, everything on your machine, like operating system, all your stuff on there is going to be completely fine, even though we're going to have to go through some options where we say erase the entire disk and stuff like that. Completely fine, you won't lose any data. Now, since we are in VirtualBox, we are going to want to click on New. Now, I am using the expert mode. You can click on the guided mode right here, and it'll switch it over. I use expert mode, however, for this tutorial, I will set it to guided mode, just kind of an explanation, because it's easier. Now, you're going to want to set your machine folder, so I set it to my custom directory where I keep my virtual machines. You can call it Ubuntu. Set it to Ubuntu 64 since the overwhelming majority of people watching this will have a 64-bit processor, especially if you're running newer Windows like Windows 10. You should most definitely have a 64-bit processor. So set it to Linux 64-bit. So that is fine. Make sure it says this right here. Now we're going to want to click on Next. Now for your memory, it kind of depends, to be honest. This isn't a straightforward, oh, you're going to want to set it to, say, 4 gigs of memory. Now, the basic is 1 gig of memory right here, 1024 megabytes. However, that's kind of not much, especially since my machine has a decent amount of RAM. So I am going to give it 8 gigs of RAM, which is 8192 megs. Now, that should be way more than enough RAM, especially since this is just going to be a virtual machine. However, most machines most machines today have about 8 gigs of RAM or somewhere in that, maybe up to 16, even though not a lot of people have 16, a lot of machines still come with 8 for some reason. However, if you have a pretty decent machine like me, which is more higher end, I recommend you set it to 8 gigs of RAM. However, you will easily get away if you set it down over here to 4 gigs. But, like I said, I'll set it to 8. You can also do 6 gigs of RAM if you want to. However, that's kind of weird amount. I mean, it works just fine, of course. But I don't know. It feels weird having 6 gigs of RAM because usually you never see that. But anyway, set it to what you want to do based on your system specs. Click Next. And it will ask you to create a virtual hard disk. So I create a virtual hard disk now. Click Next. Make sure it's now set on the default settings like VDI, VirtualBox disk image, and dynamically allocated. That's what you're gonna want to have because the basic settings will work just fine. Now, for the amount of storage you have, 10 gigs, you could get away with 10 gigs, I guess. However, I'm going to be a bit overkill and set it to 64 gigs. You probably won't need 64. I'd say 32 is the sweet spot. It's like 4 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of storage is kind of sweet spot, especially if you have like a mid-range to lower end machine. That should be way more than enough. However, since I have a more higher end machine, I'll set it to 64 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM, and that should be perfectly adequate. Next, click Create, and now you will see Ubuntu right here. Now, we are not ready to start up yet. Well, I guess you can, and then you can skip forward to when we do start it up. However, if you want to take like a couple minutes, then we can go through some settings and change a couple things. It'll make your experience way better. So what you're going to want to do is you want to come into Settings. Now, we don't need to change anything in general, but come down to System, and where it says Processor right here, I recommend putting that on about 2, but you can put it on 4. However, you don't really need 4 processors in this machine. You really don't, especially since it's just like a basic version of Linux. So, I guess you can set it to 3, but that's I'm not sure if you would want to do that. So yeah, I'll set it to 2. That should be more than enough. Easily. I mean, you can get away with 1 as well, but it won't be that good of an experience. Now, come down to display. You can get away with 16 gigs video memory, or 16 megs video memory, sorry. But I recommend putting it all the way to the maximum, 128 megs video memory. Especially since I got a decent amount of video memory, I think about 8 gigs of video memory. So I really recommend putting that pretty high. So 128 megs video memory, that should be perfect in my opinion. Bar account, don't really change that. Because you can do that, but I really don't recommend that. I guess you can if you want to, if you have multiple monitors like me. However, I don't really recommend it, especially since Ubuntu won't really benefit from multiple monitors. For the graphics controller, set it to VMS VGA. That should be perfectly fine. Don't check 3D acceleration. And finally, come down to storage right here, and where it says empty, you're going to want to click on this, click on empty, click on this little disk icon, and click choose a disk file, and it comes to that folder where you got your ISO from. Of course, everything will be linked in the description below, and you're going to want to select that ISO you downloaded right here, which is Ubuntu, click open, and click OK. Now we are ready to press start, and if you skipped ahead earlier, I'll tell you what to do in just a couple seconds when it starts up, because you will have to do an extra small step that won't take that long, of course. Now where it says like startup disk right here, if you did go through settings like I said, you can click X and it'll boot up just fine. However, if you didn't and you just started up, you're gonna want to come down here and add, and then select where you had your ISO, and then you want to click open and then choose and then click start. But I already did that earlier, so I'm click X, and I'm gonna close out some of these pop-up messages right there. And as you can see right here, if you get the little screen right there where it has like that little looks like keyboard in the bottom, then it started up, and it started up just fine. And it's checking the disks right now. It'll go through like a standard disk check. It shouldn't take that long. As you can see, it's already over halfway done. However, if you got to this part, then the rest will be pretty easy. It'll just be standard setting up an operating system sort of thing. So we're at 90% right now. It's going to complete in like 2 seconds. Yeah, check finished. No errors found. Now, of course, it's a pretty good thing if you don't have any errors in your disk, because if you do, you have operating systems, you have issues that extend beyond your virtual machine, probably. So it'll bring up it'll finish loading first, because it takes a second to load. As you see right here, when your cursor changes, again, pretty good sign. Then it has a little startup chime, Ubuntu, the Ubuntu startup chime, and then just give it a couple seconds. It's still loading like a bit of the final things. And right here, now install will pop up, and you can click try Ubuntu, which will load a kind of a live CD sort of thing where you can try it out. However, that's more in mind if you're, or recommended if you're going to be installing it like on your actual disk and replacing like your operating system, like replacing Windows or Mac OS with it. However, if you're gonna be in a virtual machine, there's no reason why you should click try Ubuntu. Just click install Ubuntu. Like, you can get rid of the virtual machine later and recover all your disk space. Like, you can get rid of this later and have no changes made to your system. Like, there's no reason you should click try Ubuntu. Just click install Ubuntu. Like, I mean, maybe it's one thing if you're installing onto your disk and you kind of want to try it first, or you haven't decided yet, but you're a virtual machine, just click install. Now I said it's English, that's what we're using for this. You can set some other things like English UK, but I'll set to English US, and I'll click continue. And right here, where it says normal installation and minimal installation. Most people are going to want to go for the normal installation. However, you can do the minimal installation like your web browser and your basic utilities. I don't really recommend that. Just go for the normal installation. If you're trying to save on some disk space and you don't really need any like the office software and the media stuff, then you can just click minimal installation. However, most people, and I highly recommend you just click normal installation. And then the other option right here, which is download updates while installing Ubuntu, and then install third-party software for graphics, Wi-Fi hardware, and additional media formats. Um, Now, this is really up to you if you want to click it. I clicked it. I can unclick it here, but I'm going to do that option. It's really up to you if you don't want to. However, I am going to because it's going to be installing it over internet because you're in a virtual machine, so it's being used through the internet that you have connected to your regular machine. So it says like Ethernet right here, I think, like yeah, wired connection. Um, so it's gonna use like your regular internet. You can do that. It's really up to you. It's not one of the things where I recommend you do it. You can do it if you want to. I am because I like to have some of the third-party software for like the graphics and the additional media formats and stuff like that. So I'm gonna do that. It's really up to you. Next, when you finish deciding what you're gonna want to do, you're gonna want to click continue and give this a second to load. Okay, now it says installation type right here. This computer currently has no detected operating systems. What would you like to do? It says you have no detected operating systems because you are using it in a virtual machine. This is not your actual regular hard disk, your solid state drive, whatever you're using. So yeah, just click erase disk and install Ubuntu. Just delete all your programs, documents, photos, music, and any other files in all operating systems. Again, this is on a virtual machine. Your data will not be affected at all. You can do something else, which is more advanced. Well, not advanced by much, but since we're doing this virtual machine, I highly recommend just click Erase Disk and install Ubuntu, and then you can click Install Now. Right here, if you continue, change will be listed below and will be written to disk. Otherwise, you'll be able to make further changes manually. Now, again, right here it says partition tables following device will be changed right here, like your drive and stuff like that. Just click Continue since none of your data is going to be changed right here. You can set your time zone right here. It automatically set mine to New York. I'll set it over here. That's fine. Click continue. And you can set up your name. I'll just do the channel name right here. And now since we're in virtual machine, it says VirtualBox. Um, that's normal. Pick username, tech cubed. That sounds perfectly fine. We'll set it to login manually because it's pretty straightforward. Like, I have encrypted disks on my main machine, and believe me, if someone managed to get into my computer, they wouldn't go for my virtual machines at all. However, probably don't be able to ever get in my computer because I keep all my disks encrypted. However, you can set passwords to log in if you want to. It's up to you. Again, this is one of those things that's up to you. However, I won't because it's pretty straightforward. Oh, I guess it makes you set a password though, so I'll just set it to that. There we go. That is just fine. There we go. Click continue. And now it will go through the basic installation. Now it won't take that long. It depends on your machine. I have a pretty fast machine, so it probably won't take that long. But I will be back when it finishes. Okay, everybody, we're back, and it looks like the installation has just finished right here. As you can see, the installation is complete. You need to restart the computer in order to use the new installation. Now, what you're going to want to do here is click out of that, and you're going to want to come to here and click the X, click power off the machine, and click OK. Now you're going to want to come to settings, go to storage, and right here where we enter the original ISO, click on the disk again, and click remove disk from virtual drive. Now, when it says empty, you are good, so click OK, and then you can click on start again, and it will bring us into Ubuntu. Right here, so it gives you this little option, like the little pop-ups right there occasionally. Now it'll look something like this. It'll begin starting up. You may see like some of these lines right here, but now it says Ubuntu, and you will boot into, well, Ubuntu for the first time. So give it it might take some time depending on your machine, what you set it to. I set it to all the options, of course. It took about, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes to get everything installed and complete. Didn't take that long. However, it's your mileage may vary. So, Ubuntu just finished booting up right here, and it'll ask you to connect your online accounts. You can do that if you feel like it. I'm just gonna click skip though. It'll ask you to do some of this stuff. You can go in here. Actually, I'm gonna go to previous, and don't send system info. It's up to you, of course. All this is. um, and then it'll pop up with some, well, software programs. I don't know why they're not loading though, but I'm gonna click done. And for the most part, you have finished installing Ubuntu, and it's ready, set up, and ready to go. Now, one of the things I recommend you do now is go into the show applications and go into settings, and you're going to want to go to display, where that is. I'm not sure where that is. Oh, yes, I saw it right here. There we go. Displays, not mouse and trackpad, displays. There we go. And it'll bring up, and of course, since it's running in window mode, it'll have some weird resolution, which is 800 by 600, which is 4 by 3. Um, and I will set it to, it depends what your monitor resolution is. For this example, though, I will set it to, where is it? I'm not sure that it says 1920 by 1200, 1920 by 1440. I'm not sure if my specific resolution is in here. However, it says the refresh rate as well, which you can set accordingly. My monitor is only 60 hertz. However, it is a 4K. It is 4K, so it should pop up with 4K right here. The resolution that my monitor natively runs in. I do record my videos in 1920 by 1080 though, so that explains that. But it looks like it won't go right now. It looks like I can't find my specific resolution. But usually you would find your specific screen resolution and set it to that and go through that process. If I extend it, will this make it bigger? No, okay. So, um, it won't do that though, unfortunately. However, for the most part, you are done. It should not work for you when you go to set up your display. Um, what's it resolution? It should work just fine. However, it's not working for me. Probably because I record my videos in a different resolution than my monitor can run at. However, that'll be just about it for today. You can go to like the store and download some programs. However, I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Tech Cubed, over and out.